Once upon a time, a group of young people, to be exact in the group of Zhen Young, name of a Chinese group, where they are kicking a guy out of this by breaking his dancing, which makes it can no longer practice martial arts, therefore is expelled for life from the sect. The boy who is being thrown out is our protagonist. He was still refusing to leave the group, since his breakage was due to the service of the same. The old man who is the sage of the sect tells him that he is a piece of human garbage that still dares to look for excuses to stay there. The protagonist was disappointed he did so much for the group and yet he is stopped in this way. We are set exactly 3 days ago with our prota who is making a raid in a forest protecting some kind of elixir. However, he is being the prescience of someone who is following him and he was not wrong. This guy appears and tells him to give him the elixir and maybe if he does so he could spare his miserable life. This guy is called Lucy from King Yum's group. The protagonist stares at him while brandishing his sword and tells him that not even in his dreams will he give him the elixir. The protagonist attacks him but the guy disappears astonished and wonders where he went to. However, the guy appears behind the prota, but he notices and manages to dodge the attack but not for long as he received a small wound in the neck. The prota knows that his speed is too fast and will be fatal if he does not react fast enough to predict one of his movement. The guy uses a strange technique in which he uses palms and all of them connect against the prota, hurting him seriously. The prota takes his sword and sticks it in the surface of the earth, thus undoing that technique. The palm technique is too dangerous since it does not damage the surface of the body but it does it internally. The prota lunges at the guy but he manages to predict his movement, dodging the attack with an incredible move. The guy counterattacks and manages to disarm the prota, throwing his sword away from him. Guy tells the prota that he is pathetic and that he should kill himself using a technique that wraps the prota. Plaster Seal applied one that is called the spring finger which breaks the dancing. Even so, the prota knows that the only thing the guy did with him was to play for a while and still had broken his dancing. So is the story of how the prota lost his dancing. He realizes how people are really in the sixth from that day is no longer part of the sect, Zhen Yang leaving it. As he is walking down the stairs of the temple, the people around Louis Nutri mutter about how trashy he can be and how useless he was in the sect. The prota continues on his way but he runs into this guy named Zhao Kang. This guy just came to ridicule the prota by teasing him that he is a useless doll. With things is that he will not abandon his dear brother. He tells him that if he still believes that he is like before, which sticks a little to the prota. All around they had that guy so they did nothing to stop his humiliation. This guy kept ridiculing the prota until a beautiful girl appears, which makes the guy who was making fun of the prota stay calm. However, when he was going to greet her, she keeps walking away and ignores him. She went straight to the prota to say goodbye to him with a cold look. He tells him that he does not need his pity and left, leaving behind the temple. Going into the forest at night falls and our prota is watching the stars, has peace and tranquility and remembers the beautiful days of his childhood, in which and his brother were united. The old teacher who had long since thrown him out was very affectionate with them all, the beautiful girl also smiling with them. The prota, remembering these beautiful scenes, says he wants to return home. However, his thought is interrupted by a strange light coming out of the sky. It was a meteorite. The prota, seeing this, is surprised. It hits the earth and the prota knows that a fallen meteorite has a great possibility that it is some treasure going quickly for him. The prota went to see this strange meteorite. He approaches carefully and then notices how a strange and strong now is permeating the atmosphere. The prota gets closer and closer until the point of being right in front of it. A strange flame starts to edge to his body. The prota wonders what the fire is. Suddenly different celestial bodies begin to enter the prota. He realizes that this strange flame can heal his meridians. The llama is becoming part of the prota, which makes a strange pain present in the prota. The prota in the blink of an eye is in a place called Danhai, where several colored spheres are in a row, but there is one that stands out from the others, and that is Danhai, which is a higher level than Chanji and can be someone who has already reached the empty realm who can really open the Danhai, in this case our prota. The strange call begins to impact against Lupillo, our quota, which was not to control spiritual sun. So much power, our prota falls fainted. If he wakes up in a house where a little boy was waiting for him, he wakes up and that boy treats him as his brother. The prota tells him who he is and why he is there. It turns out that the prota was in the enemy city of his former sect. He realizes his power, which is really great, and he is not dreaming, since he can feel it running through his being. The prota says that with this legendary fire, he will be able to take revenge on his clan. The prota is called to eat and goes there where the boy is waiting for him with an old man who made him a meal to make him a little better. The prota is surprised to see a spirit beast. Anyway, he will eat and they chat for a while. The prota is very grateful to both of them for the help since they are giving him a hand when he really needs it. The old man tells the prota that he is a cultivator even though the prota is not. He does not belong to any specific clan either, which makes him a free cultivator. He tells the old man that it is a pity because being a free cultivator did not have the same benefits as an official one, since the clan provides him with tools to improve the process. The prota knows that being a free cultivator is not feasible, although he had no choice but to be one. The Prota knows that the old man is right, but the old man gives him another help. He asks him if he is interested in being a disciple of the Hangyu sect. The Prota says yes, but it is difficult to enter this sect. The old man says that he will give him a letter of recommendation and that he will not worry. The Prota thanks him a lot and they continue to eat, although they are interrupted by a boy who entered the house kicking the door looking for something that belongs to him. The old man tells him that he does not have it. This provokes the fury of the boy, throwing the table with the food. The eagle that tries to attack him dies in the attempt. The boy is devastated, and if grandfather is being beaten by this boy until the Prota puts a hand on his shoulder. The Prota hits the boy, leaving him on the ground, and if that was not enough, he took him and hit him again and then kicked him out of the old man's house. The old man is impressed that the Prota defeated the boy, who is in the second level of his clan, with one move. Even if he was not a professional, his strength is incredibly overwhelming. Night falls, and the old man thanks the protagonist for dealing with that boy. Although he was his teacher, he did not train him very well. The protagonist tells him not to take the blame. The old man tells him that he was one of the high command of the sect, but he made a mistake, and that is why he is in that little spirit garden. He tells him that the reason for that boy is that he wants a spell that the old man has. The protagonist is surprised. A celestial spell is not just anything. That sect has a kind of spell well known among the three sects called celestial spirit spell. Once attached to the body, the kai of a person is sealed for a short time. A very valuable spell that not everyone can have, and yet that old man has one sealed in him. The next day, the old man had finished the Prota's letter of recommendation for him to take to the sect. He tells him that he has a lot of talent and not to waste it on bad things. He also gave him a beginner's manual and told him to read it. The Prota, before going to the sect, trains a little bit where he can realize the incredible power he has by using an ability that devastates the ground that falls with the same force as a thunder. The Prota arrives at the sect, where the first thing you can see are large mountain peaks. There he meets with the clan leaders to give him the letter of recommendation of the old man. The deities knew who the old man is. They see the letter of recommendation and ask him his age, and when they hear that he is 16, most of them rejected the Prota. Only one of them stayed and told him that if he wants to start as an external disciple, the Prota accepts and maybe he can go up with time. They tell him that since he is an outsider, he is not allowed to have sect treasures, only a bottle of elixir, yet he is allowed to go to the armory. And they tell him that he should practice. They also give him a warning that he is only allowed to be on the second floor and that he better not go to the second floor. The Prota is in the armory looking for weapons, but none of them interest him because they do not go with him. Some were lighter, others heavier, some longer, and others were useless. Until the aura of the Prota gives him a path and he realizes it and ends up giving him a sword called Tank, which has the meaning of Skybreaker. The protagonist takes the sword and realizes that it is a very heavy weapon, around 200, but he still chose that one. When he leaves the armory, the old man who takes care of the weapons tells him not to be so stupid and why he chose such a heavy weapon with such a weak body that he has. The Prota tells him that he did not care and to tell him the origin of that sword. The old man told him that when he arrived there, the sword was already about 100 years old. Yet no one had chosen it because of its weight, since it was not even sharp enough to cut someone. Even so, the old man allows the Prota to take the sword, something that he is very grateful for. The Prota withdraws, and as he does so, the other members of the sect begin to murmur how stupid the Prota must be to take the sword as his main weapon, as it is too heavy. They can perceive that it is too strong, but even so its cultivation power is very low. Suddenly the members see what other sects were coming to theirs. It was the Prota's previous sect. The Prota, who realizes who they are, did not expect to see him so soon. He keeps retreating while saying that someday he will take revenge. On the other hand, the beautiful girl from the beginning feels a familiar aura, yet he ignores her. The Prota, on the other hand, is with his great sword bestowing his abilities on them and blessing her. The Prota realizes the incredible power he has. In fact, he had found a hidden treasure, something that excites him too much, and now that power is part of his sword. The Prota takes the bottle of elixir to increase his cultivation power. Even though one bottle is too little for him, he needs more, so he has to fulfill missions from the sect to get more elixir. The protagonist is looking at the available missions and chooses the one to hunt bloody wolves. Everyone is impressed by the Prota's choice, yet he is interrupted and other guys arrive to take away that mission and tell him if he has a problem. Other guys arrive to take away that mission and tell him if he has a problem. One of the guys takes the Prota, and this one, for defending himself, takes him off. The Prota tells them that if he wants my emissions, he had no problem, he could choose another one. Hours, and another guy tells him that he had beaten his sister and that he will not get out of that so easy. The Prota knows that the guy is a lower rank than him, so he can win. Although the guy also knows that the Prota has enormous power, which makes them excited because he likes the kind of people who pretend to be weak and impotent to go unnoticed. They both position themselves to fight, but an old man, who is a ringleader, calls their attention and tells them that if they want to solve this, they should do it in the fighting center, which is the stage of the sect, since they are in the mission area, and that would not be the right thing to do. The guys leave, but not before telling the Prota that it will not stay that way. The Prota, who is choosing another mission, chooses one that is called Fire Wolf. The Proto later finds himself carrying out the mission. While on the way he comes across a sacred herb which he wants to take, but is surprised by the fire logo entering into combat with the Proto. This attacks him, but the Proto manages to predict his movements. The Proto defeats him and manages to extract his core. While the Proto is throwing the core he had extracted from the beast, a surprise attack almost hits him, and I say almost because he managed to notice it. Suddenly an old man in a cane appears and tells him to give him the core of the beast. The Proto tells him that it is only a level 1 and that he has no treasure, he is wasting his time with it. Still, the old man tells him that he is not obeying and attacks him, but the Proto manages to notice by deflecting and counterattacking. A strong ability hits the poor old man and he is surprised it was actually him. The old man was surprised. In reality he was the user, and that power of flame, since the first move he had made had poisoned. The old man asks him why his poison did not work. In reality this poison, if it had worked, but the power of the Proto neutralized it by refining its power. This is how the Proto ends up with the old man and steals all his belongings, which were too many and very valuable since he had several bottles of poison along with too many magic stones. While he protests stealing, the old man manages to see in his possessions a kind of book which teaches him some techniques. He protests, really excited. In reality he did not have very valuable things, and that no doubt he will use them for him. The Proto stays all night reading that book and learning the techniques. In the end he got the kick with the strength of tiger and rise. The Proto was too tired and decides to leave. On the way he can see how a girl is in the air, which he deduces is a class that allows him to rise. The Proto stays contemplating the beauty of the girl until he realizes that she is being chased by 3 thugs. The girl looked hurt. The Proto says that these matters were not his, so he will look for the best way out. However, the girl ends up landing right next to him and he has no choice but to help her. The girl hides behind a bush while the Proto comes out to talk to the guys who were chasing her. He tells her that he is just a guy passing by and that the girl they are asking about is gone. The 3 guys tell the Proto that they don't know how to lie to him, because if they do he will suffer a horrible death. However, the Proto gives him a false location and the guys leave, but not before mentioning that the girl is heavily poisoned and will not last long. When the guys leave, the girl comes out of hiding, walking from one side to another, falling fainted in the arms of the Proto. The Proto goes with the girl to a mountain where he lights a fire to extract the poison with his power. The girl, on the other hand, was doing nothing but was very hot and not exactly body heat, as it does not think about it and rushes against the Proto, kissing him to then do things were not within the mission of the Proto. On the other hand, in the garden of the old man who had helped the Proto is happening a disaster, as they went to look for the Proto and tell the old man that he delivered him, and he says that he has long since gone to one. If they ask the magic power to the old man, something that is denied. On the other hand, the boy was tied to a tree wanting to defend his grandfather, but it was useless. While grandfather is beaten, the boy just observes. Returning to our Proto, the girl is past the effect of the poison and wakes up at the worst time. Misunderstanding things catches the Proto and binds him hands and feet. Other guys arrive, and one of them was a high rank, which tells the girl that what conspire against him only deserve death. Yet their battle's interrupted by powerful auras that approaches to protect the girl. The girl's 6th had arrived to help her. The boys flee as they are of higher rank than them. They had managed to find the girl by following her trail, yet one of her sisters has business to attend to and tells her wounded sister to rest. The girl went to see if the Proto was still there, but he had already thrown himself from the mountain tied up. The girl feels very ashamed of the event, imagining, I know everything that happened. The girl's sister arrives and asks her what is wrong and if she has been doing things in that mountain. The girl denies it categorically, and they tell her that they have to go because they are waiting for them, evading all the questions. On the other hand, our Proto is not dead yet since he had been saved from the fall, even so he decides to leave. On the other hand, in the old man's house, both were being tortured by the boy who wanted the old man's skills. They had him tied up and were giving him lashes. One of them warns the boy that he should not kill them since it is a sin for which you can pay much later. The boy is not at all interested in the lives of these two. However, he turns around and manages to see the magical beast, which is the eagle. They are planning to cook it and feed it to the old man and the boy. Suddenly, our Proto enters the house and is shocked to see that guy was torturing the people who had helped him when he was screwed. So he attacks them. The guy is a skill and the Proto receives it. That skill did not do anything to him, manages to hit him, leaving him again on the floor. He sends his subordinates to attack the protagonist. The Proto can take them both off and gives them a huge beating. The guys beg for mercy, yet the Proto can't forgive them just like that. The Proto takes the guy and tells him that he will punish him 100 times his pain. He applies a technique called poison needles. Although the needles were not poisoned, it felt like millions of bees were constantly stinging you. The boy asks for mercy to the Proto, and he tells him that the one who had sent him to get the celestial power was the same boy with whom he fought when he was watching the mission. The Proto is upset. Without a doubt he will make him pay for what he has done. He goes to where the boy is, even if he loses his life in the attempt, but he wanted to make him suffer no matter what it takes. In the temple they were training this boy, and a messenger arrives who tells the nemesis of the Proto that he is challenging him. Even so, he is very confident because his rank is much higher than the protas. The master asks the boy who is challenging him, and he tells him that the one who is challenging him is an inner disciple called Yi. The master is surprised that the low ranker, who had been rejected by everyone when he arrived, dared to challenge his disciple, who is a great warrior, was so unbelievably good at his job. He was so incredibly good that no one could touch him when he fought. He was incredibly fast. And if that was not enough, the only ones who had managed to beat him were the masters in higher ranks than him. The master told him to give him only one lesson because he knows that his disciple is not as conceited as he is powerful. Whoever challenges him, if he wants to end his life without a second's hesitation, tells him to give him a light lesson, or else everyone will talk about him taking advantage of the weak. The time of the fight arrives and everyone is gathered to watch the fight, or as others say, the end of our protagonist. They both arrive and the boy tells the protagonist that he is looking for his death and that if he wants to die he should let him know quickly, and even bets a lot of money. Even so, the protagonist wants to take it to another level and tells him that he wants to pay for it with his life. Everyone had faith in the boy disciple since they knew absolutely nothing about the prota, only that he was a fucking crazy guy who challenged one of the most powerful of the sect. This, upon hearing the bet of the prota, is not even surprised since he was confident of the victor. He tells him that if he knows more or less who he is talking to. The prota only tells him that he is scared because he does not want to fight him. The guy laughs and tells him that he thinks it is a good deal because he had everything to win. Then tells him not to blame him if he dies and that he really despised him. The battle begins and various rays and auras begin to come out of both. Everyone around was impressed with the process of the fight was very even. The previous fights of this type usually end in seconds. But not this time. The prota was giving battle would not fall easily and defend the honor of the old man and the boy to pick and sword. The prota attacks him with the sword, but the boy with a great movement manages to get it out of him, leaving him totally unarmed. The guy takes advantage of the weakness of the prota and attacks him. He was already unarmed. He only had to die. However, when the guy is close to the prota to give him a blow, he rises into the air. The guy is amazed and immediately receives a strong kick from the prota in the face. The guy touches his face and actually hit him. The prota did not stop and continued attacking the guy constantly. The guy kept dodging. He still could not believe that the prota touched him, and the same impression is taken by the spectators because never in his life in a fight he had never been touched. He did not even move to fight. How could it be that he was hit by this guy? The guy does not stay behind in a powerful secret ability. Everyone around is surprised because that ability is only taught to a small percentage of the disciples, and when small in reality are very few. The guy uses the ability and a beam of light with an incredible aura is present in his palm, attacks and throws it to the protagonist, yet this repels it with incredible ease. Both the guy and everyone around were words. He had easily repelled an exclusive ability of the sect. Everyone began to believe that the protagonist was made of stone. After repelling the ability from the air, the prota appears ready to kill the boy with his huge, for an incredible force comes off him, falls to the ground, and everything rumbles with the crash of the thunder sword. The boy had blocked the attack, but still the blade of his sword breaks. Everyone around still could not believe that one of the most powerful disciples of the clan is being defeated by one of very low tango, who was barely new in the sect and had not even been fully accepted. The prota puts the sword on his neck as a sign that he had already lost. Now he had to die. All are blank actually going to kill him, but if he killed him he would have a huge problem with the sect, as it is a crime to kill a disciple. Even so, the prota is with his word. He is still going to do his best to make the boy suffer until he dies. Some thought he wouldn't do it and others thought he would. Although the prota's posture is that of killing. The boy, seeing the situation, says that the bet was a joke, that he was not serious. Everyone told him that if he killed the disciple the master would not forgive him for anything in the world. The prota in his defense says that before the fight they bet his life and now he has to fulfill his part of the deal, in this case death. Suddenly he is interrupted by a beautiful girl, and if this is the same girl of the old clan of the prota who tells him that they are all a bunch of hypocrites. The girl was talking to him and he interrupted him and told her that if he had relatives and if he had tied them to a tree day and night torturing them and she gets to see that she would forgive him, he asks her. He tells him that even so, if he did not give him a simple gesture of compassion. The prota uses his ability and raises his arm, determined to kill the boy. All around were waiting for the blood to be spilled for the disaster to begin, and almost killed him. A series of events would approach him, and not exactly the good ones, because if he ends, the life of the boy would die the next day. Suddenly, when the protagonist is about to impact, the attack is stopped by a hand. It was the master who had arrived on the scene, tells him not to kill his disciple as the protagonist will be his new disciple. Everyone around is surprised at what this master had done, as it is impossible for him to ask someone to be his disciple. Most times have always been others who have told him to train him. Now the prota coldly tells him that he is not interested in being his disciple. Both the master and the others around note that there is a shock that just said the prota was the first time the master asked someone to be his disciple, and also the first time he was rejected. To top it off, he had been rejected by a disciple of external rank. The Proto tells him that was achieved that day he went with the letter of recommendation because now they wanted to train him. He says that he is not a doll that they can move at will. The master a siren and I know you will go a circle showing him that he can kill him at any time. And I will try to be that he is not afraid to die, and that is to die because he would take his title with the grave wing. The Proto tells him that he stains the images and kill him in front of so many people. The master clarified to the ball that killed his disciple is a serious crime against the sect. The master is unwilling that the Proto kills his disciple. You are still chatting with the master and he keeps telling me that it tarnishes his image if he kills him in front of so many people. The master knows that it is true and he is looking for a juicy booty which brings him the chest, and by the weight of this our Proto falls sitting down. When he is taking his disciple, the master tells the Proto that he will pay for that. The Proto just tells him that he will wait for him and that it is better if it is soon. Everyone around the sect talks about how the boy had been defeated, and they also talked about the rejection that the master had suffered from the Proto. They also talk about the almost death of the boy, and the Proto is really very powerful. The voices male reach the ears of the ringleaders who are impressed by the defeat of the boy. The master was also calling the boy's attention. Thanks to him both had been humiliated. Not to mention the fight that the Proto gave him that had made him look ridiculous. Let's see if they still do not explain where it came from. The power of the protagonist, which is an ability never seen before and which was presented in that confrontation. A master is willing to make the Proto his disciple since in his look he saw that he has a clear objective. He does not know if this is a revenge or maybe it can also be that something is happening with the Proto. Now if nothing will remain ridiculed, what do I do after they had lost in that fight with a low rank? The Sep is disappointed in both the master and the boy, and even more the master that sent her that the boy had used the secret skill against the Proto and this had not even made a scratch on her. And but I have three sides was reviewing his reward had realized that he had been paid too much, about 500 magic stones, which was a fortune for this. Also had given many bottles of elixir which would serve as to improve his rank. The Proto while watching the night stands up and is about to go home. You know you just got into trouble, as it provokes a master of that rank, and even if it was little reject, it was not anything that someone is willing to do. Only a madman would refuse offer, and that madman was the Proto. The process into the house of the old man willing to share their rewards with him, making a huge feast to share among all. We also realize that the eagle that from the beginning seems to have lost his life was actually alive but seriously injured. The old man is even happier to have someone with the Proto protecting his old bones is something he appreciates too much, since when he committed the crime in the Expelled he was treated as miserable as a real scumbag, all beaten up and sent to that little garden. Cluso, the talented new young warriors, were going to cause them trouble to fuck up his life, until the Proto arrived, something that makes him very happy. While everyone is sharing and eating and the protagonist is talking to the boy, they are interrupted by the presence of a girl. It was the sister, which is the same girl who appeared in the test trying to prevent the protagonist from killing the boy, and he replied that if she had a family and one day she came home and saw him beating her, she would forgive him. The Proto is surprised to see the presence of this girl in that garden and tells him what brings her there. The girl sees him and goes straight to the point and tells him that the master wants to recruit him to be part of one of the great peaks of the sect, a very prestigious peak in which teachers and high-ranking warriors are present training warriors to make elite rank. And we'll see what happens in the next video. Hit the like button and subscribe if you like it, and if you want the next part, write in the comments the word immortal. Thanks for watching.